Welcome back, learners. So, this session is on bioplastics. The topic is related to the course MEV 015 Environmental Pollution Control and Management of MSc Environmental Sciences and Masters in Arts of Environmental Studies program. So, we have seen that how plastics are detrimental, how bad they are. So, plastics, as we have seen, that plastics are the polymers of long chain of monomers joined together. Plastics are petroleum based or bio based. So now let us see what are bio based plastics. What are organic plastics? How can biological world help in the production of the plastics? And how does it alter the physical, chemical and the biological properties of the plastics, and then how it becomes safe to use, because we have become so accustomed to use of the plastics that we must devise something which is eco-friendly and which does not pose threat to our health. So the answer lies in bioplastics. Learners, now let us see what are bioplastics. As the name indicates, plastic made from biological world. I must also tell you one thing, that the word plastic has come from the Latin word which plasticus, and plasticus means which can be molded into any form, which can be changed into any form. So bioplastics are the plastic materials, but unlike the conventional plastics which are made from the fossil fuels, the bioplastics are made from the vegetable oils or from the corn starch or from the potato starch, potato flour, wheat, rice. All the agricultural, the prospective agricultural raw materials can help us in forming the bioplastics. You can see here that vegetable fat oils, cornstarch, straw, wood chips and sawdust, recycled food waste, these are the organic sources which are readily available, and they are processed to give oil, and this oil is then converted into plastics. And you can see that these type of raw material basically are available very easily, unlike the fossil fuels. So we must think about more ways and means to devise plastic from these food crops. How we can take the help of the food crops, how we can utilize the organic waste generated, especially horticulture waste and agricultural waste, how we can use it and how we can process it to make the plastic articles which can be used like the conventional plastics which we are using. According to the European bioplastics, they have defined bioplastics as something which has two properties. Either it is bio-based or it is biodegradable. Now, these two terms you must understand very clearly. Bio-based means which has an origin from the living organisms. It may be a plant, it may be an animal, it may be an algae, which has an origin from the living world, that is the bio-based. But biodegradable is something which can be converted, the complex can be converted into simpler by means of the living organisms. Now, it is not necessarily that the bioplastics which are bio-based, which are coming from the agricultural source, can be easily biodegraded. There are certain fossil fuel based plastics also which can be biodegradable. So, there are certain biodegradable plastics, in spite of the fact that they are derived from the fossil fuels, they are being labeled as bioplastics, which is not true. So, simply speaking, you must understand that for any plastic to be claimed as it is a bioplastic, either it should be coming from the living organisms or it should be biodegradable. Further way of classifying, if we go into that what is the type of the bioplastics, we must understand that either it is coming from the agricultural products, like for example vegetable oil, or we just now see corn starch, or it is coming from wheat, rice flour, potato, beetroot, cassava. These are some of the examples of, these are the agricultural products, these are the food crops, but they have the potential of being their residue can be converted into the plastic, or it can be agricultural means like stubble, like mulches which are there in the agricultural lands, or it can be biological entity itself. For example, algae. Algae is being used for the production of the bioplastics. So now let us understand that what is the difference between conventional plastic and bioplastic, and which one is better with respect to certain properties of this. If you look at the source, conventional plastics, as we have discussed just now, they are derived from the fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, natural gas. The bioplastics are derived from natural renewable sources, wood dust, sawdust, plants, algae, etc. The resource availability of conventional plastic is limited because it relies on the fossil fuels which are limited in supply, but the resource availability of bioplastics is more because it is based upon the renewable sources which are always there, which can be easily replenished. The conventional bioplastics are not biodegradable, but the bioplastics are biodegradable. They are made up of the living organisms, so they get easily converted into the simpler forms. Conventional plastics lead to environmental pollution. However, the environmental impact, the direct environmental impact of bioplastics is not so much. Conventional plastics, we have seen, are used almost in every application: packaging, bags, construction, textile, electronics, medicine, and so on. But the bioplastics are still finding their use for various purposes, although they are also utilized in agriculture, they are utilized in packaging, food, electronics, but still their utilization is limited. And when you see the examples, we have seen polyethylene terephthalate, PVC, polystyrene. These are the examples of the conventional plastics, but this is polylactic acid, polyhydroxyurethanes, and polyhydroxyalkanoate are the most common types of the bioplastics which are available today. Let us understand what are the main types of bioplastics. The main types of bioplastics are two. They are one is polylactic acid, which is obtained from the agricultural sources, basically from those agricultural crops which contain sugar in them. So sugarcane is a potent source of polylactic bioplastics because they contain sugar, and that which is acted upon in them, which is then converted into the oils. Another type of the plastic is polyhydroxyalkanate. It is made by microorganisms, and it is possible to genetically engineer it, and then plastic is formed. Now you can see what is the basic difference is that polylactic has the component of sugar essential in it, because it converts it, the different enzymes act upon the various reactants act upon the sugars which are present in the raw materials which are being processed, and therefore the presence of lactic acid plays an important role in this type of plastics. Now polylactic plastics have a huge application in terms of packaging, and also it is seen in certain cases that polylactic bioplastic is edible. And therefore, in the market, you must have seen nowadays that there is a trend of edible cutlery. When we say that we do not use the plastic spoons, then the market has an option that there is an edible cutlery, edible plates which you can use. Mostly they utilize the source of polylactic bioplastics because you can eat it as well. But however, it is not so recommended, because if certain additives are added or if the shelf life is crossed, then it may pose threat. So on the other hand, polyhydroxylonate bioplastic is made from the microorganisms. So there is a culture of the bacteria, algae which can be used, and in the laboratory conditions we are converting the component into oils, and with the help of various mechanical chemical procedures the bioplastics is formed. When you look at the properties of the bioplastics, they appear to be very similar to the conventional plastics, and therefore we always it is recommended that the use of bioplastics should be promoted, because like the other conventional plastics, they are also very stiff, they are brittle, they are rubbery, they are moldable, they degrade at a very high temperature, they are moisture resistant, water insoluble, optically pure, and impermeable to oxygen. These are some of the properties of the bioplastics which have been being utilized for the manufacture of various different types of the articles. So as we have seen in the trend of the conventional plastics also, that because of their unique properties, they are finding use everywhere. So now bioplastics also, although they have a certain limitation, because they are very expensive, and also it is not possible to find their application in certain important fields such as in medicine or electronic items. However, they are used in the automobile parts, but there also it becomes very difficult to totally replace the conventional plastic. But yes, for the manufacture of household items, for the especially packaging industry, these bioplastics can really bring about a revolution because of the properties which are very much similar. For example, they are also moldable. This is one of the best property which can be utilized to a great extent, and they are degrading at a very high temperature. So that means the shape and the structure remains intact, because unless and until high temperature is provided, it does not disintegrate, it does not lose its shape. So these are some of the virtues of the bioplastics which we must use on, and there are several advantages. And most importantly, why we are so much thinking about plastic and related health hazards is that the property is that it does not disintegrate. However, bioplastics have certain advantages, and one of the important advantages is that they reduce carbon footprint, because there is no carbon emission, there is no release of carbon dioxide, methane gas, and from where they are being manufactured, that is also organic in nature, that is also plant based, animal based. So we are not extracting any fossil fuel for the production of the bioplastics. There is no use of the non-renewable energy sources, there is less pollution. However, they are also being said that there are additives being added, but in most of the cases these contain no extra additives that pose threat to the human health. In case of the plastics, we have seen that there are certain elements which are very dangerous, and therefore it is recommended that we should not use plastic containers for storing eatables and all. However, with the bioplastics, we can be safe, we can be sure that it will not cause any health hazards in human beings. and they do not change the order, they do not change the chemical composition of any liquid or food material stored in them. So they are not reactive, they are not changing the properties of the substance which is being stored in them. So these are some of the advantages of the bioplastics, and therefore they are finding great use in packaging. They are being utilized in food services, various types of the catering business uses lot of bioplastics for packaging also, for serving also. So there is a huge jump in the use of the bioplastics in these areas. Agriculture and horticulture, it is being used for the manufacture of various equipments which are utilized in agriculture, consumer electronics, automobile and transport, various household appliances, stationery items, lot of things, building, construction, adhesive, fibers. So the market today is full of the products which are made from the bioplastics, which and it is very difficult also to distinguish between conventionally plastic made product or the product made from the bioplastic. And therefore, if you look at the statistics according to 2023, this data, the production or the use of the bioplastics is going at a great extent. And in this figure you can see that most of the plastic is being utilized for packaging purposes, like because it is very flexible and it is very rigid. 5% of the bioplastics are utilized in agriculture and horticulture for various equipments and for various other purposes. The fibers are being used, and these may be cotton fibers, woven fibers, interwoven fibers. They also use bioplastics, and it is quite high, that is 21%. Especially textile industry is utilizing a huge amount of bioplastics. It is being used in automobile and transport for the various vehicle parts, various other purposes. Electrics and electronics, it is somewhere around 4%. Coatings and adhesives is 1%. Consumer goods 13%, the various household appliances and the other things, and building and construction, it is somewhere around 1%, and 3% it is being used for others. There is a lot of research, there is a lot of market, you can say, demand for the bioplastics nowadays, because we know the health hazards are many. And with the ongoing research, improvements in the technologies, we have been able to produce bioplastics at a larger scale, and we can think about bridging the gap between the demand and the supply by the utilization of bioplastics. And therefore, we say that bioplastics are very, very important for circular economy. Learners, you must be knowing about circular economy. Circular economy means the economy in which the products are used and again they are sent back to the nature in the same form as they were taken. So it is different from the use and dispose kind of economy, where in the linear economy where we use the things and just dispose of like that, but it is how a circular economy. So if you look at the bioplastics whole life cycle of a bioplastic material, if you look at it, you will find that it is obtained from the source which is green, which is renewable, which is easily available. Plastic is made out of it, and when it is not used or when it is discarded, again it will come back to its own original form. It will be back to the soil, whatever the constituents it had, whether it is carbon, hydrogen, it will be back to the soil, it will be back to the nature. This is one of the important aspect of the circular economy, and bioplastics are strengthening our circular economy models because of their inherent nature of being easily renewable. So depending on the type of the bioplastic, that is also very important, they can help us improve circularity of our product so that there is no landfill deposition, so that there is no marine pollution, and it has a lower carbon footprint, and therefore there are improved material productions being taking place. So if when the goals of the circular economy, this is very important, and therefore we have seen that they are used in various purposes. However, we must also understand that bioplastics are also having certain issues with them. There are certain problems associated with bioplastics also. We have seen that plastic causes pollution, plastic causes various health hazards, but most importantly, if you look carefully, bioplastics are being made from the energy crops, and there are quite a chances that if there is a commercialization of bioplastics production, then it may compete with the food crops. There is an impetus today for the companies to produce bioplastics at a larger scale on large farms, but then our lands are limited. Our agricultural land is limited. And those food crops which have a huge potential for being the source of the bioplastics, then it becomes a kind of a problem. It becomes a kind of a food security issue, because it has been seen that there is a growing competition. Our food crops are replaced by the energy crops. In various examples, we have seen that bioplastics or the raw material which is required, they are planted at a commercial level, and there is a stress on the food crops which are essential to be for the people, which is very essential. So somewhere or the other, we also need to check that how we are going to promote bioplastics, but not at the cost of our agricultural lands and the agricultural crops which is required by the population for their own survival. So if it becomes a commercial activity, if it becomes if it is done on a large scale and just for the profit making, then it will become a serious issue in the near future. Then when it comes to recycling also, the proper recycling measures which are in place today for the conventional plastic may not work for the bioplastics. This is also very important, because for them separate recycling centers are essential, because the methods of shredding or the decomposition or the recycling procedures are entirely different. We do not have that type of infrastructure at present in our country. So when we encourage bioplastics, it is also important for us to set up a suitable infrastructure for them, that how it would be collected, how it would be recycled, and what measures would be taken so as to make them profitable. Basically, this is very important. And there are hidden costs, because when we are dealing with the crops, there are chances of the calamities, and we must also think about there may be crop failures also, there may be disasters, floods, droughts. These type of things are very common, because this is happening on a natural natural place. It is dependent on the nature, and therefore what happens is that the farmers or the companies who are growing these crops, they tend to use various mechanisms like use of pesticides, use of fertilizers, because that is the base of their whole industry. So there will be more and more usage of these toxic components, toxic materials, and there are hidden environmental costs associated with it. So how would it be done? How to see that the plant grows well, without any pest, without any disease, and we are able to get the maximum out of that crop, will naturally utilize the various other measures to be taken. And most importantly, as we have seen, that there is a requirement of extensive land for this. It is not possible to it is not feasible also to obtain the energy or the fuel from the small piece of land. huge lands are required to grow crops which can be the potent raw material for the bioplastics. So that will also be an issue that the land and the land authorities and at the village level, at the local level, that may also create not only the environmental but the social and economic problems as well. As we have seen, there are recycling centers also very limited. Not only recycling, but the methods by which we are producing, they are also very limited. So in that case, it becomes difficult to use the bioplastics on a larger level. Then they are very expensive. Most importantly, why we are using the conventional plastic is that they are very cheap. They can be easily replaceable. So this is one of the main factor, because when you go to buy any product which is made up of the bioplastic, it appears to be expensive. So we have to pay more. That also comes in the way of promoting more and more bioplastics, because once it is expensive, definitely there is a little bit concern that how it would be possible for the population to buy it and to use it. And also there are concerns about the emissions from the harvesting equipment also, as it will come under the hidden cost only, because the agriculture also is one of the contributor towards pollution in various forms. So at one end we are reviving the traditional agricultural practices, at one end we are again promoting the indigenous varieties, but on the other hand, if we make it industrial farming for the bioplastics, it may become a concern. So while concluding, we can say that bioplastics are potent source for future, but then we have to look at it carefully, the various pros and cons. Thank you so much.